Alright, so in this video I'm going to kind of go over the more technical things within this video. I'm just going to really cover a lot of information. Hopefully if there was ever any issues, even though I can't exactly predict, or I can predict some of them, but can't predict every issue that may come up, giving you this information, hopefully you'll be able to figure out how to solve any problems that may come up. So I'm just going to kind of go over a bunch of technical information here. So here is the set list and the song database for the worship here. We've got pretty much every song that we do, pretty much every key. Now this is this column is the master column. So if I was to click the play button for any of these songs, it's going to trigger all of these tracks in the same row. With So for each song is going to have different tracks for each one, and I've got them labeled up here. These are kind of the groups that they're placed in. So drum and rhythm with under this section, you've got the drum track, and you can see I've got them all labeled if I was to expand this. So this is the drums track for always, and this is in B flat, that sort of thing. I just keep it small just to make it a little easier to organize. And then you've got the loop section. So if there's any songs that have a loop in it, that's where this would go. Then percussion, and then we've got a couple other percussion channels. Some songs have more than one percussion, as you can see. Then we've got bass. This is the bass guitar, and then the synth bass, which can be a little different. Some songs have a little synth bass that drive the song. Then we've got electric guitars. We've got lead, and I've set it up for a lead 1, a lead 2, and a lead 3, and then a rhythm, 2, 3, and 4. Depending on the song, it'll have it set up differently. Like this has one lead song or one lead guitar, but 2 rhythms, that sort of thing, and I've divided it up that way. Then we've got acoustics, pretty self-explanatory. Acoustic 1, 2, 3, and then I've got a mandolin. Some songs have a mandolin in it. For example, 10,000 Reasons does. Then piano 1, 2, and 3. Keys, we've got keys 1 through 7, and then a Rhodes, organ, and an effects. Strings 1, 2, and 3, and then background vocals, BGVs. We've got alto, tenor, BGV 1, 2, choir, and effects. And then this last column is the ambient pad. This is something that is separately. These don't actually come with the songs, but I like to have them there specifically for whatever key that you've got. If you're doing a song in C, you could hit the C pad, and it's just gonna kind of have this droning pad sound throughout the whole file. So that's how that is all set up. That's kind of what organizes it. And like what I said, whenever you click on this row for bigger than, this is the master section. If I could click play, it's going to trigger all of the tracks in that row to play the song. Now down here is kind of the sound, the way to control the sound and the volume for each thing, and the output that it's sent to. So for example, we've got this drum column, and over here is the on and off button. If I turn this off, there won't be any drums coming through ever whatsoever. So that turns off drums, period. With drums on this song, drums on this song, drums on this song, it just turns off all of the drums because it's controlling that entire column. Same thing for loops, percussion. If I turn this off, it's going to totally turn off all the percussion. This is to solo it. For example, if I want to just listen to that specifically, only want to hear that track, maybe it's sounding a bit off or it's sounding weird, and I want to solo it out to make sure it's actually that track. I can solo it out, and then I can turn it off if it sounds bad. This fader, this little knob here, it's a little bigger right here. This controls the overall volume. So for the drums here, right now I have them all set to 0. That just makes it easier. But if you want to turn down the drums overall, this is how you would do that to make the drums a different volume. Now, this, like I said, it controls everything. If I mute this, it's going to mute all of the drums on every song. If I mute this, it's going to mute the bass guitar on every song. So typically, this is not how you want to control things. If you click on the individual item, the individual track, it will pull up that file here. So if I click on drums, it's going to pull it up. It's color coordinated, so it's going to be orange. And this is actually what the drums play throughout the song. So if I click on this, you can see this little guide coming through, and it's saying, so if I was to fast forward, now the drums are going to come in right here, and I can solo it. So now you got the drums. If we fast forward, there's no drums in here. We get into the middle of it. So that's where we got. So clicking on the individual track is what's going to pull that up. And like I said, it's color coordinated. Blue bass, it's going to pull it up blue. And now this is what the bass looks like. If you need to control something specifically, say we've got we don't have a guitar player, so the electric guitar, the lead guitar is coming through the tracks on one Sunday. Instead of let's say the electric guitar is too loud, it's just too much. The sound guide needs it to be turned down. You come in here and you click on the lead guitar, and now instead of for turning down the volume here, which like I said controls every electric guitar, which you don't always want to do that. The electric guitar might be fine on one song, but for this specific song it might be too loud, so you don't want to use this. You click on this, it's going to pull all of this up here. You can see what the electric guitar looks like, and here is the volume knob for this specific track, for this specific electric guitar. So you can turn this up or down to have it fit whatever is needed. These should be set fairly appropriately. I've gone through and kind of adjusted the volumes. As you can see, this one's already -3. This one is just barely anything taken away, but this one is -17. So this electric guitar was really loud. I already turned it down. So they should be fairly close to what's needed, but if you ever need to do that, that's how you would do it. Now let's say you've got an electric guitar. Let's go back to bigger than. Let's just say this electric guitar sounds horrible. For whatever reason, this really shouldn't happen, but if it just sounds really bad in the house, nobody thinks it sounds good, the whole band doesn't like it, instead of for muting the electric guitar, which again, this would mute all the electric guitars, if just this one song sounds bad, what you can do, you can either right click, or which is 2 fingers if you tap, and you can deactivate the clip, which is right here. You can deactivate the clip, which will actually, now you can see it loses its color. Now it is not going to play this track. Even if we click this here, it is not going to give us anything coming through on this track. It is deactivated that entire track. The easy way to do that, the fast button, is to press 0. So if I've got it selected and I press 0, it's going to deactivate it. This one's activated. If I press 0, it's deactivated. You can turn it off and on. So if there's ever an instrument or a track that sounds weird, that sounds off, you can just simply deactivate it. Now, for each week, I usually do that to the background vocals. So in the other video, I showed you how to add the songs to the set list. I'm just going to do that real quick. But we'll put them up here. So we'll do it this way. And so when we do that, we're bringing all of the vocals, all of the tracks with us. And so now we've got all of these BGVs, but normally these sound pretty bad. We never use these on Sunday. So what I like to do is if I click and drag, I can highlight this whole section and then press 0, and it's going to just deactivate it completely. So now the vocals, even when you play the track, the vocals won't come through at all, which can be really nice, especially during rehearsal. If you just want to turn those off, that's a good thing to do. Another thing, if we come back down to this section down here, we've got kind of these master outputs. These control what channel to send each track to on the board. So as you can see, we've got it set up right now that this between channels 1 through 12, or we could do a stereo channel, but we don't use that. Channels 1 through 12, the click is sent to channel 1, and so is the guide. The guide is sent to channel 1. Then the drums start channel 2. Percussions, those are on channel 3. Bass is channel 4, sub bass channel 11, and etc. So all the electric guitars are 5, the rhythm guitars are 6, and that sort of thing. This shouldn't be anything that you need to adjust, but if there ever is a scenario where something is off, for some odd reason the electric guitar is coming through on the synth channel, on the keys channel on the soundboard, that would mean that for somehow this got changed to channel 10, because as you can see the keys come in on channel 10 and channel 11. So for some reason, somehow this got changed to channel 10. and you just need to switch it back to channel 5, so that way on the soundboard, the sound guy knows how to control the instruments accordingly. Like I said, this shouldn't change, but if any problem were to arise, that would be what you do. And I've got it set up this way. The vocals come in on channel 2, which is actually the same as the drums. So if you ever have the drums on, say at rehearsal, maybe the drummer couldn't come, so you turn the drums on in the track so you can practice still with drums, and you don't turn the vocals off. The vocals are going to come in on channel 2, and you'll hear them unless you deactivate them, like I showed you earlier. I showed this in the last video, but I'll cover it here again too. If you go into the preferences, you've got the audio preferences. You need to make sure Dante Virtual Sound Card is selected, and make sure that the Cat5 cord is plugged in on the left side of the keyboard. If that's not plugged in, you won't get any sound to the soundboard at all, and you'll actually get this. So if you have no device, you should, yep, it will. You'll have this red indicator here. This is showing that there is no audio output. You could play the songs as much as you like, and you're not going to hear anything. You also get this whole red bar warning down here. And if that is ever up, all you do is come into Preferences and turn on the Dante Virtual Sound Card, and it will all be set up, and now everything should come through the system. I think that pretty much covers everything. Like I said, we've got this whole song database. We do have a few Christmas songs that we have tracks to as well. These pads, I will go over this real quick. These pads, recently I've been adding these in a lot. Depending on the key that we're singing, I'll simply copy and paste this track up to the set list that we're doing. So let's just do this real quick. So we've got Bigger Than in E, and then B flat and G. So I will take the E pad and I will copy it to right up here, right in line with Bigger Than, to make sure that that's all lined up. Then B flat for Cornerstone. So I'll take that one, copy and paste, and then Cornerstone in G. So I will take Cornerstone and copy it. This allows simply for a nice pad to fill in. You should hear it come in at the beginning. Yeah, that little droning pad. And that plays throughout the entire song. And the nice thing about it, when you start, it slowly fades in. And whenever you stop, it actually slowly fades out. So it makes for nice transitions. You do have to add these manually, but it is a nice little feature to have for each Sunday if you want to do it that way. As you can tell, I think Amazing Grace is the only one. Amazing Grace doesn't have many tracks to it at all, as you can see. So I went ahead and added that into Amazing Grace, but I don't think there's any other song that has it in already. So if you want to add in those tracks there, or the pads there for each song, you can do that. Kind of allows for a little seamless transition. That should pretty much cover everything. I will let you know, Click. I have the original Click file, so whenever I bought the tracks, it came with this Click file. But I have my own Click, Foundations 2.0. That's the file name. That's the program, or that's the Click that I've imported to Ableton. It sounds much better, and it makes it nice because some of the original Clicks sound different from one song to the other, and it just makes it weird. So I've imported the original Click just in case if anything was to go wrong with the Foundation Click. But as you can see, this is the only track that I've actually turned off because I don't ever want to hear any of these clicks here, any of the original clicks, unless the Foundation Click for some reason goes wrong, which that has happened before. There have been some Sundays when I've had to do that, and all I do is I'll turn this on, and since for a Sunday we're only using these 3 songs, I will actually have this click turned on, and then I will deactivate. Let's say the Cornerstone Foundation Click was messed up, so I will deactivate the other 2 original clicks, and since the Foundation Click is messed up, I'll deactivate that. So now I've got Foundation Click, Original Click, Foundation Click, and I've just turned it on here. So if there's ever anything that goes wrong with the Foundation Click, that's how you'll want to fix it. But normally, I just have this turned off, and 90% of the time, the Foundation Click works just fine. Everything else should be fine. I don't think there's anything else really to cover. I'm trying to think of any other issues that could go wrong. and that really should cover pretty much everything. If there's a track that sounds weird, again, don't mute it down here. Just simply deactivate it if you don't like it. And on a typical Sunday, um, for example, I don't, even though we don't use drums on a Sunday morning, we wouldn't use drums in the tracks. We almost always have a drummer on Sunday. I usually don't deactivate the drums. Instead, I have the sound guide muted at the soundboard. That just makes it a little easier, so that way, whoever's setting up Ableton doesn't have to come in and deactivate every single track that we do have. So if we've got an acoustic player, that means you'd have to deactivate all of these. And then if we've got a piano player, you got to come and deactivate all these just to save time. It's much easier to just mute it at the soundboard. If we've got a piano player, he just mutes the channel 9. Since piano's on channel 9, he just mutes the piano, so you don't have to worry about it. And then even in worst case scenario, say we do have the piano player, but the piano just randomly stopped working. Uh, Instead of for that whole song not having piano, all the sound guy has to do is unmute this piano channel, so that way the piano actually comes through the tracks. Kind of just a fail-safe. Same thing for the drums. If the drummer, everything was to fall over in the drum cage and he can't play anymore for that song, all he has to do is actually turn on the drums in the tracks, and at least you still have drums to finish it out. So I don't deactivate it unless it's absolutely something that sounds horrible. For example, the vocals, I will almost always deactivate that just to make it sound a little cleaner, make it not sound weird in our ears. But yeah, other than that, that should really cover pretty much everything. Um, Anything that I haven't covered as far as setup wise, I covered in the other video. Um, hopefully, hopefully that will cover everything.